guys, it's Reagan and welcome to the start of a extra special reading vlog. This reading vlog, honestly, I have been planning to do for about a month and I am so excited it's finally happening. That's right, today I'm going to be reading 3 different of my personal favorite booktubers' favorite books from this past year. These types of vlogs are some of my favorite to watch across booktube. I just think it's so fun. I just love seeing other creators make TBRs based on other creators. I think it's such a fun aspect of this community, and obviously the timing of it being January when I've started filming this is there's boundless favorite books of the year videos, which are truthfully one of my favorite videos to watch. I get so many fantastic book recommendations. I truthfully want to make many versions of this video, but today I picked 3 books from 3 of my favorite creators across booktube and I'm really excited about them and I'm excited to chat with them today. So the 3 creators I'm going to be featuring is first the Book Leo, just a fantastic creator, great ambiance, great cozy vibes. She and I have some similarities in our content, but I do feel like she has different tastes than me, so I was looking forward to picking out something that might be a bit of like a surprise or just a new book for me to have in my life. She loves dark academia, which is a genre I personally also really like, and I feel like she has a lot of great recommendations within that particular like genre choice. Next, I have Petrick, who is just hands down one of my favorite fantasy YouTubers. We have really similar tastes when it comes to fantasy books, and his channel is just always a go-to for me when I'm looking for new releases or just fantasy opinions. I love his book recommendations and I have found so many fantastic ones on his channel throughout the years. And then lastly, I'm picking a book from Elliot Brooks, who is another one of my favorite more fantasy-leaning YouTuber. Obviously, I read mostly fantasy, so I wanted first for this video to more of a fantasy-leaning vlog. She recently posted her favorite fantasy reads from 2022, which I watched. Not only got some great recs, but also pulled a book for this video itself. My TBR, which I am about to go through in more in-depth, is quite the range of vibes, which I also think is quite a bit of fun. But obviously, check these people's channels out if you haven't already. They are fantastic. They all make great videos and I'm so looking forward to my TBR for this video. So without further ado, let's chat about the 3 books I hope to read over the course of this week. First, the book I'm reading inspired by the Book Leo's channel is Bunny by Mona Awad. I've seen a lot of people chat about this. I've seen a lot of creators I love really mention this quite a bit, and it did make the Book Leo's like favorite books of the year. So I thought it would be a fantastic one to check out. There's a lot of hype surrounding this book, and it's also one of those books that seemingly has so much going on. Like on the surface, it's a dark academia story about a group of girls who call themselves the Bunnies at a very prestigious university and a girl who feels like an outsider. So it seemingly has the trappings of like a classic like school setting with messed up characters, but then I think it really takes a turn. There's a lot of genre tags when it comes to this particular story, like horror, magical realism, academia, and I'm just really intrigued by it. I feel like it'll be a really fast read, very compulsive, and I'm also hoping it has a bit of like horror elements. But we shall see. Next, I have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Songu Madana, and this I pulled from Elliot's channel. This just sounded adorable, and a book I actually just recently purchased, so it felt perfect that I saw it as a favorite on her page. I'm actually going to be listening to this book via audio to pair with my puzzles for the week, but I just feel like this could just be an adorable, heartwarming story that will stay with me for a long time. But this follows our main character, Micah Moon, who is a witch, one of the last remaining witches in all of the UK. As a witch, she really has to keep her head down and keep her magic secret, which also means she can't really congregate with like other witches. As a pastime and a way for her to kind of express her creativity, she does have a YouTube channel where she pretends to be a witch, and obviously she has real magic, but people don't make that connection. At the beginning of this book, though, she receives a very mysterious invitation inviting her to this remote property, some other young witch's magic, and she decides to go. I think this has found family elements, some romance. I think it's going to be really cute about second chances, and I can't wait. I'm really hoping this will just be utterly delightful and in great contrast to Bunny. These sound like polar opposites when it comes to books. And then lastly, the book I pulled from Petrick's channel is Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan. I actually discovered this series due to Petrick's channel, and I've talked about this series recently ad nauseum. This is the 3rd book and kind of the end to the first trilogy of this series, and actually made Petrick's like top 10, really close to the number #1 spot actually, and it just got me really excited to read it as soon as possible. Obviously, the Legends of the First Empire series, which is just like a really classic pastoral fantasy series set in an ancient setting in a fantasy world. It's sort of like humans versus elves versus dwarves sort of situation. Great characters, great setting, and fantastic pacing. He got me, again, so excited about this third novel and kind of the final finale of the first part of the series that I knew I needed to pick it up right away. But this is my TBR. Quite the collection of stories. All of them I'm hoping are all 5 out of 5 stars for me. I feel pretty strongly I'm going to love these books. This is the question mark of the vlog, which also makes it the book I'm in some ways like the most excited to pick up because I just want to see where I'm going to land. But anyway, welcome to this vlog. I'm so excited about this TBR, and yeah, let's get started. It is time for some midday coffee before I can even think about being productive. Hi friends, we are in my dining room, which can only mean one thing. New puzzle. Today's puzzle, I should say this week's puzzle, is like a classic little scene. My grandmother sent me this puzzle, so it is also extra special. Shout out to my grandmother. I'm so excited to do this. I have pottery class later tonight, so I really don't have that much time at this juncture to read, but I'm gonna try to fit as much reading in as possible. So I'm actually going to start my audiobook of this vlog, which, as I already mentioned, is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which I feel like is going to be incredible on audio. We'll report back if that ends up being the case. But who doesn't love a charming rom-com-esque story on audiobook? I definitely do. So I'm gonna listen to this now, see how far I get on this puzzle and this audiobook before I need to go make masterpieces at my pottery class. Guys, I'm all of a chapter into this book and it is exactly what I was hoping. It's so charming. The audiobook narrator is fantastic. Mika Moon, I mean, everything about it. I'm like laughing, I'm giggling. I'm already giddy reading this book and it's been like 20 minutes. Great start. Alrighty, off to pottery I go. Queso and tacos post pottery, covered in clay, as you should be. And I'm gonna eat this and then go read. Starting the second book of the vlog tonight. Much more reading will be done in the next few days. Pottery nights are always just, you know, full of pottery, but I'm really excited to start this one. Good morning, friends. It is ultra gloomy outside. And I'm about to enjoy this coffee, sit right there on the couch, and do some more reading of Bunny. Hi. So I wanted to do a reading update of Bunny because I have read 60 pages of this book, and I have to say I'm really liking it. Like Mean Girls, Heathers, but like on a very pompous sort of university campus. Everyone's writing poetry. It's strange. It's very dream-like. It's heavily academic. At this point in the story, 60 pages in, I don't really know like what direction it's going. It very much reads like satire, but it still has this like feeling of foreboding to it. And I feel like I could really spend a lot of time like trying to nitpick and like overanalyze this book. Which is ironic because I also think in part that's what this book is kind of making fun of in a lot of instances. But I'm also just trying to like go along for the ride because it's so strange and I feel just like pulled in, very much like our main character is sort of pulled in. But let me take a step back. So this book follows our main character, Samantha. She is a scholarship like post-grad at Warren University, which is in New England. This is a place, I guess, where writers thrive. And she is like a poet and a writer, and she's a part of this department where obviously everyone is writing these works, and it's obviously there's lots of like literary criticism and people like reading into things and making these like really intense descriptive stories and people trying to make cutting edge work. All of this type of stuff is like very much part of the story. At this university, there's this group of girls who she calls the bunnies. They all refer to each other as bunny. They're like beautiful and strange, and they like coordinate and they like move together as a unit across the university. And at the beginning of this book, she hates them from the outside. She judges them from the outside. But then she's invited to like kind of hang out with them. But it's not like a hangout. Everything about the story feels very like ceremonial. It feels very like bleeding heart sort of situation. Personally, I feel like it creates such an interesting vibe. Like, on the surface, I've read 60 pages and we're just following a girl who writes stories that are really dark and gritty, and she starts to hang out with this group of girls who call themselves Bunny. Like, that's literally all that's happened, but like how it's stylized and how we're being pulled through the story, it feels eerie and like intangible, but in like a really entertaining way so far. So I don't know, I've read 60 pages. I'm gonna read a bit more and then I'm gonna do my skincare and get dressed for the day. But so far I'm liking it. And I think it's just like over the top in a way that I personally really enjoy. Like, I feel like this could be a winner for me, but I still have quite a bit of this book left to read. Let's make lunch together. Top it with chicken and some corn and beans. Some news. I spilled my lunch all over myself, hence the outfit change. But good news is I'm gonna work on my puzzle for a bit. You know, it's that time of the month, ladies and gents, and I just want to sit and do some puzzling, eat some chocolate, and I think that'll be a good time. And I'm also going to listen to my audiobook of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which, as I mentioned, I only listened to the first 2 chapters of it yesterday, but could just immediately tell right away it was going to be the adorable book of my dreams, because I was just blown away by the first 2 chapters. Cute, funny, engaging, concept, setting, everything. I just know it's going to be a feel-good story, and I'm just so grateful to Elliot for pushing it at the top of my TBR for this video. So we're gonna do that right now. It's gonna be a grand old time. I have my Valentine's Day chocolate in the other room, and we're gonna have a little moment to ourselves. Hello friends, I've changed to pajamas for the evening, but I've also listened to 6 chapters of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and it's so delightful. 6 chapters is about 75 or so pages, and I'm flying through this book. It's so good. In the story, as I've mentioned, we follow our main character, Mika Moon, who is a YouTuber and a young woman who lives in Brighton. There are a few things that she knows to be true about witches. One, all witches are born orphans, which ends up with many witches living rather lonely existences. And also when they give birth to a witch, it, for some reason, ends up resulting in their passing. So not very many witches obviously then have children. Growing up, she was kind of passed around from a variety of tutors. She's always been taught to keep her magic secret. And when anyone basically discovered that she had magic, she basically got a new teacher within their stead. And a lot of very obvious things, very difficult to basically make connections. She grew up very lonely, and she also was very determined when she kind of came of age to kind of build a life for herself. She has a complicated relationship with the woman who kind of took her in, and basically she is often baffled by a lot of the rules that she encounters with other witches. Fast forward to present day and the beginning of this novel, we see our main character receive a very strange email, basically asking her to interview for this job to become a tutor to 3 young witches. She's skeptical for a variety of reasons. One, she doesn't think most people know witches are real, and two, witches normally are raised in isolation and not amongst each other because magic compounds, so it's more likely to draw the attention of non-magical individuals. But she decides to check it out, so she travels to this nowhere house and she stumbles upon not only a beautiful and idyllic and adorable little house and cottage, but a group of kind of strange adults, like a motley crew, a very found family situation, all working and trying their best to raise these 3 young girls. And they're doing a great job outside of the fact that none of them are magical. So they knew they needed to find an outside help to train the girls in magical abilities because they care so much about them and they want them to be able to gain control of their powers and also be able to do whatever they want when they grow up. Mika Moon is torn about what she's supposed to do because she knows it's dangerous to have all this magic in one particular place, but she also sees in these young girls an opportunity to kind of provide them knowledge and an existence amongst each other that she never had growing up. And you can just see the trappings for an adorable time. The audiobook is fantastic. I love the narrator, great voices, so engaging. And I can already see like the development of like so many different types of relationships between our main character and these young girls who are like her pupils. But it's not just Mika Moon and the kids at this nowhere house. There's also this really adorable older gay couple, a grumpy librarian who is dashingly handsome. And you can just immediately tell like this might have a rom-com element, but it also is just going to have a really lovely like just overall environment and vibe. I'm also just curious to see how like the magical educational piece goes, because obviously our main character is there to teach magic, which I think will be really cool. But so far it's really delivering like the cozy, charming good time I was hoping. So 75 pages read of that. I've also read 75 pages of Bunny. I plan to read a lot more of Bunny tonight, but so far I've read about 150 pages, so not bad, but I definitely plan to pick up the pace over the next few days. But time to begin the rest of the evening now that I've done some puzzling. I completely scrapped my initial dinner plans and I'm making spam and rice because comfort food is key. And that's all I got. I think I'm gonna go take a shower too whilst this is cooking, and then watch some TV and then do a lot more reading. Dinner is served. The Last of Us is so good, but it's time to lay in bed with Matilda, who's already all oh so comfortable, isn't that right? But I am gonna read more Bunny this evening. I'm gonna read hopefully for like a good hour and a half and just get some good serious reading in. I'm gonna put my faux fireplace on. It's gonna be peak vibes. Good morning, everyone. Starting the day, of course, with some coffee. I'm happy to report I read a decent chunk of Bunnies last night. I'm about 50% of the way through, and my hope is to finish it today. And that book is like a fever dream. It is so strange, and I feel like it's strange from page 1, but it also is almost like a slippery slope. Like it gets stranger and stranger and stranger as you go along, but it almost begins to feel normal. And there's also this like tonal shift, like literally from how our character is writing or how the book is written itself. There's a bit of a shift, which I think is very, very effective. But anyway, cheers. Going to read a good amount right now while my bangs dry. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to have one book down starting today. And I'm really looking forward to see what in the world is going to happen next, because truly could not guess the direction of the story at all. Matilda enjoying the sun as she should. And also I'm happy to report, hello Mitty, that I am up and dressed. We have real clothes. Ooh, it's sunny. And I have makeup on. I filmed the whole video this morning. We're on top of it. Also, I did read to page 200 of Bunny, which what is going on in this book? Like the escalate, like it's really hard to talk about because the experience of the book in a lot of ways is just to read it and to watch it unfold. And it almost just feels like it starts out at like a normal rhythm and then it just escalates and escalates and escalates, and there's just such strange things happening from so many different directions that you're like, what? But that's also why you can't put it down. It's like, as I said, it's like a fever dream. There's no other way to explain it in some regards. So anyway, I need to do more work, but I just wanted to show you my outfit, talk about Bunny. I want to read more Bunny this afternoon. And obviously, again, my goal is to finish it. I have about 100 pages left, so it should not be an issue, but I gotta stay being productive. So I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna have an afternoon coffee and I'm gonna read a good little bit of Bunny because I need to know where in the hell this book is going. So many directions it could take. Guys, I finished Bunny and wow, this was an experience. As I sort of mentioned earlier, hard to describe without, I feel like it's best to know very little. So like the general synopsis is fine to know going in. I feel like I need to like ruminate on this book a bit. My initial reaction is one of enjoyment, mostly because it was like refreshing almost, because I truly could say I didn't know where it was going. So it was perplexing, it was graphic, it was daring, it was strange, it was violent. I feel like you could spend a lot of time like picking this book apart and like trying to completely understand the imagery of every single scene. Obviously, this is about a woman who is in a graduate program for writing. She is a writer. And, you know, the line between fact and fiction, everything feels very, very blurry. And there's clearly not only lots of references, but lots of specific use of imagery and metaphor, and it creates an interesting ambiance and experience. Weirdly, like it's bizarre and dark, but it wasn't like I was terrified. Like it has like elements of like humor, like satire, because it was so over the top, but it still had elements of like emotional weight, which I thought was good. I need to sit on it more, basically is what I'm trying to say. But my first reaction is I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting read and it caught me off guard. I wouldn't say this is like the best book I've ever read, but I completely understand, like personally, but I can understand why people might have that reaction, because I feel like this is a book that's either going to like, you're either gonna jive with or not. And I definitely would say I jived with it. I was like along for the ride, open mind, like what's gonna happen. I think I just need to like ruminate on it, think about it a bit more, and like have all the pieces come into place. I feel like it's like one of those things, like the more I think about it, I'll either like it more or I'll like it less. So I'm not quite sure like where I'm at with that. I feel like it happens, this same sort of thing happens to me like when I watch an A24 movie. Like I need to like think about it a bit, and then I'll decide like where the chips are gonna fall. But the experience of reading this I enjoyed, and I feel like I'm being vague for no reason, but because 305 pages, and I've also read 75 pages of the very secret society of Irregular Witches, so I'm definitely tracking like a good amount read for this week. I'm gonna start Age of War tonight. My hope is to finish all 3 of these books by these 3 incredible booktubers. And I'm happy to report I have finished the first one, which was the one I was most curious about too. So it definitely delivered in it being an unexpected read. Make a cool show. Hi friends, I'm actually dressed and ready to go because Clay and I are driving down to San Antonio this evening for a very special reason. And that is because his grandfather is turning 100 years old. So obviously there's going to be a party, a little family celebration. It's like dressier attire. So that's where we're headed. So it's gonna be a night of family. I probably won't do any check-ins until we are back. And I'll probably do a little bit more reading tonight, but that's why I'm also really happy I was able to finish my book before we left. Good morning, everyone. Pouring myself a cup of coffee, and then we can chat about— Hi. So now that I've officially finished Bunny, I can move on to my 3rd book of the vlog, which is Age of War. And again, quick reminder, this is the 3rd book to the Legends of the First Empire series, but this particular fantasy series, well, 6 books, is kind of written in 2 acts. So in a lot of ways, this is the conclusion to the first act, and I'm really excited to see how things are gonna go down. I feel like everything's really going to escalate very, very quickly. I mean, the name of the book is Age of War. So anyway, I'm gonna get some reading in as we speak, and I'll keep you updated. I also hope to read a really good chunk of the Secret Society of Irregular Witches as well and do a lot of my puzzle today. I have no plans tonight, so I feel like I'll be able to get a lot of puzzling in, you know? In other news, here is a closer look at my very pink, whew, that's sun, cardigan, which I am such a fan of. I think it's so fun, and it's also like fuzzy. Lunch is served. I wanted to do a reading update of Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan because I actually sat down and read 100 pages this morning because I love this series. I fly through this series, just the writing, something about it just I immediately just fall into. It feels like cozy and endearing to me just in its very classical structure. But what I think is one of the most unique aspects of this series, so, and a little bit of primer, this is like humans versus elves versus maybe dwarves. It's like an ancient set fantasy story. It's an origin prequel to some of Michael J. Sullivan's other work. So it's kind of about the establishment of human civilization and also like the war and conflict that they waged against another group called the Fray, who are basically an elven people who kind of have controlled and persecuted humans for a long time and also kind of set themselves up to be perceived as gods. In the beginning of book 1, a human actually killed off a Fray, which kind of started the whole process of humans kind of coming together and fighting against this sort of force. We also get insight into the Fray government and structurally how their government is not so hunky-dory. There's other factions. The current in power group is not very beloved by like other groups of Fray. It all gets very, very complicated quickly. Really at the heart of this book, the characters are truly fantastic and the growth and the journeys you go on with them. There's quests, there's battles, there's like so many different things happening. But one of the reasons why I feel like I love this series so much is the concept of this being like an ancient human civilization. And through all of the books, you see like the building blocks of the building of society. And I think that is so cool, from like the creation of writing to the creation of the wheel to figuring out how steel is made and how all of these discoveries like build on top of each other and it becomes much more accelerated. In some ways, obviously, the speed of discovery is not very realistic, but this is a fantasy world, so I'm just gonna go with it. But I think that concept and that inclusion is just really cool. There's also so many different female characters in this series that I personally just really, really like. I wouldn't describe this either as like grimdark in any way. I love grimdark fantasy, but I feel like it's kind of the trend right now. So it's kind of fun to read something that feels very Tolkien-esque, like vibe-wise, and it just really, really lands for me. Pedrick said that this book has some of the best written combat he's encountered in a long time, so I'm excited to get to that later on in the story. But the first 100 pages is just great. Like, it's obviously kind of setting the stage to what's going to happen later in this book. But again, those building blocks established in books 1 and 2 are there. So it's just like immediately addicting and I just can't wait to see how things are going to unfold. There's also a magical component in this book. It's something called the art. It's very like elemental based, but there's all different types of skill sets and there's also different types of magical creatures that exist in this land. The main players are humans versus elves, but as I said, there's dwarven characters we've been introduced to, there's giants. So I think there's like a lot more to be discovered, which I think one might be included in this book or the second trilogy, but also in Michael J. Sullivan's other series. But I'm just really enjoying it. And I read that quickly and I can't wait to read more later on today, but I have lots of stuff I need to do, so we are going to do that. But just wanted to give you an update. I feel like I'm making great progress. I've almost read 500 pages so far for this vlog. I'm definitely going to read more of my audiobook later today. That is a goal of mine. But just wanted to let you know that I have read 100 pages and that's so far so great. It's puzzle time. We've now entered the puzzle zone. I am going to listen to more of my delightful audiobook because I didn't get to listen to it much yesterday at all, which is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I have about, in my approximation, 4 to 5 hours left. I definitely think I'll be able to finish this by tomorrow, but I've got to get started now, you know? So let's get to it. Puzzle update. We've made some serious progress on the housing part of this. I have all the scenery part left, but love to see it. Also, I'm really happy to report I have passed the 150 page mark of A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and this book is so unbelievably charming and cute. Like, I was tearing up so many different times while listening to the story. This is a hug in a book. And again, all those, you know, things that I've kind of described before, found family, and just there's so many different types of relationships that you're seeing be developed in this book, and it's so charming. But at the heart of it, the story is really about a group of people living in a home. They're all kind of, in some ways, like casted out by society, and they found this place and they've built this beautiful like sanctuary for themselves. They all love and care for each other. They're all very, very different. And our main character, obviously, Mika Moon, is very new to this place. So there is going to be some growing pains there, particularly in her development with her relationship with the young witches that are present on the property. The girls in the story are so cute. You see them kind of like reaching out and grasping for relationships and connection, but you also see them be so brave and, you know, obviously be very cautious around a new individual coming in, and perhaps starting out being very angry or distant, or like not wanting to accept Mika Moon amongst them in fear of her possibly hurting others around them. It's just so good. And then there's just all of these endearing relationships. And then the other main character, I would say, is Jamie, and he is the young librarian that lives on the property, and he in large part raised the young girls ever since they were brought to the house itself. So he's really, really protective over them. He has a really grumpy disposition, but he obviously has a really big heart. And you see the development of Mika and his relationship like slowly as they begin to trust. And obviously for our main character, Mika Moon, she grew up in a very isolated situation, not a lot of connections, not a lot of friends, because that was what she was taught, to not really grow close to anyone in fear of her magic being discovered. But in this new environment, obviously she is being able to kind of exist in an entirely new fashion. And all of the emotional and the adorable connections aside, the magic of this book is cool. Like how the author is describing how magic works and learning about spells and basically being in like a magical classroom setting is just so endearing and make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Like, it's so adorable in all the best ways possible, but it's also not just like fluffy. Like, there is a lot of emotion in this story too, but emotion that makes you just like want to hug everyone, if that makes sense. But I'm really liking this. The audiobook, again, is fantastic. But that is my update for you guys at this juncture. 10 out of 10 read so far. Thank you, Elliot. You guys already know it's pizza time. I'm so excited. Bed and ready to read more Age of War. I'm so excited. We're gonna get some serious reading in. Hello everyone, good morning. It is very gloomy outside. I have my cup of coffee. We are going to start the morning right there with Matilda and have a reading sprint of Age of War. We're gonna get so much read this morning. We're all gonna be astonished. And then I owe y'all a reading update, as I am betwixt quite a few books at the moment. But I'm looking forward to reading. So we're gonna do that. I think I'm gonna turn on one more light. Ah, nice. Better light coverage for this clip. And we're gonna get to reading right now. So let's do it, Millie. I had a fantastic reading sprint this morning. I'm on page like 260 of this book. It's incredible. I love the characters. I love the setup so much. And I've reached the point where the battle is about to start, which is the point of the book I've been the most excited to read, just because I've heard such great things about like the military writing and the escalation of everything. Oh, I'm so excited. It's time for some candy and some coffee, and I'm gonna sit down and read some more Age of War, which I'm so excited about, and then I'm gonna finish my puzzle. Both things are going to happen tonight. Guys, I've been sitting and reading Age of War. I've made fantastic progress. This book is exceptional. Definitely the strongest in the series. I agree with Patrick 100% in that regard. Just how everything's coming together and like the character moments are stunning. I'm gasping. I'm emotional. Like I've teared up multiple times reading this book. And it's also had me on the edge of my seat. The pacing to both the buildup of this conflict, which we've known it was going to come for the past, this is the third book, like since the beginning basically, but also how the author is writing the military conflict is so good. Usually I feel like when I read combat, especially war combat in fantasy books, it can feel very muddled and the scenes are pretty quick and sometimes that's what the author is going for, like this really hectic, violent, fast exchange. But how Michael J. Sullivan is approaching this battle is so intricate, and you can see like the different strategies at play. You can see the different like pulses of the war, the before, the after, like the rising tension. Everything about it is just really well plotted. It gives like Lord of the Rings Two Tower vibes, you know what I mean? Personally, is like one of my favorite fantasy battles, and I feel like this book similarly does a great job at like capturing the feeling of a siege and then kind of explaining the different approaches of people actually going out and battling each other. Because of that, I'm just absolutely riveted. And there's also just like, because this is the third book in this series, we have been hearing and there's been references to certain things that we're seeing payoff for. It's creating some of the most amazing just moments while reading this book. I have so many favorite side characters in this and like so many little side stories that are just so effective. And I'm just obsessed. This is really a 10 out of 10 book for me. I loved every book in this series, but again, I think this is my favorite so far. And I'm just having a great time. I'm having a great time reading this book. I'm gonna pause. I am thinking I should be able to finish this tonight, but I'm gonna pivot over to my puzzle now and switch to my audiobook because I'm also loving that book too. And I wanna read obviously more of that as well. It's happening, guys. Finished. Also, I'm so happy to report that I listened to so much of that audiobook. I think I only have like an hour left. That is how much I listened to it. So I will definitely probably just read the last like 30 or so pages that are remaining. So I've read like 270 pages of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and oh my gosh, it is a perfect book. Like for the genre, what it's trying to accomplish, it's heartwarming. It has so many fantastic side characters. Like you're rooting for the romance, which is also paced so well. It's all about like opening your heart up to people after being hurt and like second chances and learning to accept love and like accept different types of love. It's so flippin' cute, compounded by the fact that there's like touches of magic and just, it's such a delightful read. Oh my gosh, I'm like giggling listening to this. I'm laughing, I'm crying. I feel so much emotion. It is a delightful book. Like 10 out of 10, you gotta check this book out if you wanna feel something. If you wanna feel like a human being, read this book. There's tea, there's a cozy cottage, there's cold oceans, like it has it all. And Mika Moon as a main character, wonderful. Jamie as a love interest, wonderful. So many other characters to fall in love with, including the young witches that she's teaching. I mean, there's just so much. There's so much to be delighted by. Truly, 10 out of 10. I'm gonna finish it tonight. I think I'll be able to finish both of my 2 remaining books tonight, and I'll probably wrap everything up in the morning. But wow, 1, I've read a lot of pages so far this week. 2, 3 extraordinarily different books, but 3 great books by 3 great booktubers. So far, truly, this reading vlog was so fun. A 10 out of 10 TBR. Like, everything ended up being a slam dunk. I feel like I should do this more often, read other people's faves. But for now, I'm going to change into pajamas and I think watch Fruits Baskets with Clay tonight and order some takeout. Very low-key, very low-key. But that's it. But oh my god! The book is so cute. It's so cute. It's so cute. It's so cute. Hi friends, it's Reagan and welcome to the end of the vlog. I wanted to pop in and wrap up everything I was able to read. So great news. I have finished all 3 books books for a total of 1,110 pages. Not a bad week of reading, if you ask me. For wrapping everything up, I'm going to start with Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan, because this is for sure the book I have chatted about the least. I loved this. This was the best book in the series so far. The character arcs, the culmination of the plot, the combat, the military writing, everything about it was just absolutely gripping. I was so emotional by the end of this book. This is a story that is both somehow like lighthearted and classic and pastoral, but that doesn't mean there isn't loss or heartbreak or moments of extreme tension and just so many situations just made me want to scream, but this was just fantastic and I can't wait to check out the rest of the books in the series. 5 out of 5 stars for me. Also, I completed the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Amazing, heartwarming, cozy, adorable. If you're looking for a book that will put like a smile on your face, make you feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside, this is the book for you. Another book that has obviously like very delightful elements to it, but still isn't afraid to kind of discuss harder topics. Seeing these characters make so many deeply emotional connections was just incredible. And the magic in this book was just so cool. Learning about the Society of Witches, seeing our main character Mika Moon teach magic, and being introduced to like witch society was just amazing. I loved this book, such a fast read. Again, I listened to the audiobook of this, which I would also highly recommend. I loved the narrator so much. And then lastly, I read Bunny. Again, quite the range of vibes. I was shocked, I was crying from happiness, you know, all different types of feelings. But this is a very strange, dark academia, horror-esque story, A24 in a 300-page package. Very strange. But the more I sit with it, the more I enjoyed the ride. It was just so unexpected, and just for that alone, I just really appreciated it. It's nice to just pick up a story with very little feeling that you will be able to guess what is going to happen next, and that is definitely what Bunny delivered. I want to quickly say thank you for watching, and also thank you to these 3 amazing booktubers for having great taste, because honestly I loved all of these books for very different reasons. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye.